Shalom Lukulam. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Begin Center Zoom program for English speakers. My name is Paul Gross. I'm a senior fellow here at the Menachem Begin Heritage Center, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the latest in our weekly Zoom events. We started last week a new series, which we're calling Many Faces of the IDF, in which we are meeting with different representatives of different communities or sectors or identifiable populations, shall we say, in Israel, and that serve in the IDF, including those that we don't always think of as serving in the IDF. So last week was a good example of that when we spoke to Rabbi Klebener about Haredim, about ultra-Orthodox soldiers in the IDF. And today we have another, again, population we don't think of so much as serving in the IDF, which is the Arab population of Israel. And we have the absolute perfect person to speak to about that, and I'm going to introduce him momentarily. I hope those of you who celebrated Purim today or yesterday enjoyed it, had a good time. Some of you, like me in Jerusalem, celebrated today. I have sobered up. I hope you have too. Pictures of me and my son dressed as Harry Potter characters available on request. You can email me at some point for those. But without further ado, we're going to start with, I'm going to introduce our speaker, and then we're going to get to the conversation. I will speak with him for about half an hour and then turn to questions from you guys, the audience, and you can put those questions to us by writing them in the chat, and I will choose some of those to put to our guest. Now, our guest is the one and only Yoseph Haddad, who was born in Haifa. He volunteered in the IDF, where he served in the Golani infantry brigade, completing a commander's course and receiving an award for excellence. He was seriously injured in the Second Lebanon War in 2006 and lost many friends and fellow soldiers. And after that experience, he chose to dedicate his life to showcasing the truth about the state of Israel abroad, fighting BDS, and working to improve relations between Arabs and Jews in Israel. Yosef is now a renowned lecturer around the world, speaking to diverse communities, groups, and students. In 2018, he established a new organization called Together, Vouch for Each Other, bringing Arabs and Jews together, which has since grown to have thousands of supporters online. He has been named as one of the 50 most influential pro-Israel voices online and one of the top 40 digital influencers for Israel by the Jewish News Syndicate. Yosef Haddad, what a great pleasure to have you.
I'm very glad to be here.
Fantastic. Okay, let's start with what I think is a really fascinating, what will be a very fascinating part of this conversation, which is your personal story. I just said you were born in Haifa. Many of our audience will know it's a city with a large Arab population, larger than many mixed. It's a mixed city. It's Jewish and Arab, unlike many places in Israel. But you decided to serve in the IDF, which is not the norm for Israeli Arabs, including Arab citizens of Haifa. Can you tell us, why did you decide to do it, and what were your experiences in the IDF?
Well, to actually answer this question, I have to go back to my childhood. But I do have to say that in 2003, when I decided to volunteer to the IDF, indeed, it wasn't the norm, and you could actually count the Arab soldiers maybe on your both hands. Today, we have thousands of Arab Israelis volunteering and serving in the IDF, from the Bedouin community, from the Muslim and the Christian community, and obviously because it's mandatory for the Druze community as well. But to answer the question, as I said, I have to go back to my childhood. So I was born in Haifa, which is the largest mixed city in Israel, where you have Jews, Druze, Christians, and Muslim living in that city. My family is from Haifa, but my parents decided to move to Nazareth when I was 3. And Nazareth is the largest Arab city. So there you go, you have the largest mixed city in Israel, you have the largest Arab city in Israel, and both of those cities were significant cities or places in my childhood. I always remember that I was, I would finish school, run as fast as possible to my house, do my homework, because otherwise my mom would not even allow me to leave. And then from there, after I finish my homework, I just take the bus And for those who are familiar with the area, it's bus 331, line 331. You go from Nazareth to Haifa, and it end up in the last station, which is Kiryat Eliezer neighborhood. And over there was a playground and a football court that we used to play there. My friends, it was Jews and Arabs. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian, Muslim, Druze, or Jews. It doesn't matter whether you're a secular or religion. It doesn't matter if you're Ashkenazi or Mizrahi. We just wanted to play football together. And that's how our friendship started to build up, step by step. And it was so fascinating to see that we didn't care. We didn't care about anything beside or looking at each other, beside the fact that this person is a human being, this person is a human being, this person loves to play football, this person likes to play football. We didn't care about anything else. And because of that fact, our friendship started to begin better and better and grow more and more and more. And then suddenly we go and visit each other's houses, eat together, drink together, and suddenly we become great friends. The idea was that we did not want to mix the culture and the tradition between each other, but rather to get to know the culture of each other and get to know the traditions of each other and respect each other. And because of that, and because the majority of those kids back then just followed that thing, it really allowed us to first feel equal, second, to respect each other. But if I have to put my finger on one thing, it made us feel Israelis. Something that, outside of this group, because I'm not naive and because I understood what's going on in the real life outside of this group, but within this group, we felt equal. And because we felt equal, we felt Israelis. And when I arrived at the age of 18, that's the time where the Druze and the Jews to serve in the army. And I see my Jewish friends and I see my Druze friends going to the army and starting their way in the army. And I'm asking myself, wait, why I am not serving in the army? Now, obviously, I'm not an idiot. I know the answer. Arab, Christians, and Muslims, it's not mandatory for them to serve in the army. And if you want to do that, you have to volunteer. My question was more of a question to ask, because eventually, and I always use that and I say that, I'm not going to serve in the JDF. I'm not going to serve in the Jewish Defense Forces. If I would go to serve, I would go serve in the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Forces. And when the IDF protects the country, the IDF protects all its citizens, including the 20% Arab Israelis. And when Hamas, Hezbollah, and Islamic Jihad, backed up by Iran, attack Israel, their missiles, they don't discriminate between Jews and Arabs. As long as you're Israeli, you are a target for that. And unfortunately, I have also the facts to that, which I will share just momentarily. So at that moment, I said to myself, I'm an Israeli citizen. I want to volunteer and serve my country and serve my society. And my society is the Israeli society. And that's how I saw it. So not only I decided to volunteer, but I went hardcore, which is serving in the Golani brigade. Why? Because it's the best brigade in the IDF. And if someone else thinks that, get out of the Zoom right now. No, I'm joking. Yeah, and also only crazy people are accepted to Golani. And, by the end of the Zoom session, you will understand that I'm a bit crazy. Anyway, so I decided to volunteer to the IDF, to Golani. And one of my friends from Nazareth, I have a couple of stories about my friends from Nazareth. One of them is the time that they called me and they said to me, Yosef, we heard that you're going to the army. Are you sure this is the path that you want to take? And I said 100%. On the 4th of October, 2003, just about a month and a half before my beginning of my service, my decision to go to the army went from 100% to 1,000,000%. The problem is that it happened because of a bad or terrible event that happened in Israel. On the 4th of October, 2003, a Palestinian female suicide bomber entered the Maxim restaurant in Haifa, and she blew up that restaurant. Ended up killing 21 civilians, Jews and Arabs, injuring over 50 Jews and Arabs. And by the way, Maxim restaurant is co-owned by Arabs and Jews. 4 days before the attack, my parents sat down at that restaurant. Now imagine, just imagine, what if the suicide bomber would have gone 4 days earlier? Or what if she went, or my parents went 4 days later? I would be without a parent. That moment, I realized that when I'm going to defend my country, when I'm going to protect my society, I'm protecting all Israelis, Jews and Arabs. That was the stab, unfortunately. And unfortunately, because people lost their life. And this is how I start my service. A year later, I become a commander. And to put it in this way, to answer your second part of your question of how did I feel, serving in the army, especially volunteering in the army, I can tell you not only the minute I stepped into the Golani family, I felt immediately inside a family, but later in my service, especially when I become a commander, I would take a lot of questions whether my soldiers respected me because I'm an Arab and my soldiers were Jews, which is quite ironic when it comes to the apartheid myth, because how, if I live under apartheid regime, can I, as an Arab, become a commander over Jewish soldiers in the IDF? Go back to the question of whether they respected me or not. Not only my soldiers respected me, and not only my soldiers followed me and went to battle with me, but it was even more than that. Every time I had a talk with my soldiers, they would come to me and say, Yosef, do you know why we respect you? Do you know why we will go to battle with you no matter what? We are obligated to be here. You volunteered to be here. And that's why whenever there's a battle and you're leading us, we're behind you. I will never forget those words. Never. Because it is, if I may say, it gave me such a great feeling to see my soldiers, respecting me and respecting the fact that I decided to volunteer to the IDF and see me as a commander that can lead them in the battle. Which brings me to 2 months before the end of my service. I participated in the Second Lebanon War. Unfortunately, in that war, I lost 7 of my friends, 3 of my commanders, including Wa'i Klein, who jumped on a grenade to save his crew while he's shouting Shema Israel. I think today, when we speak about lack of leadership in our country, I think if I need to look at a leadership and a role model, it will be Wa'i Klein, because what he done as a commander way before he decided to jump on a grenade, he was first of all and above everything, he was a human being that cared about his soldier, and he looked at us as his family. I will never remember the talks. My organization name is because of him, because of a talk that me and him had together. If I have time, I will share that story as well. So yeah, I really hope to see more leaders like Wa'i Klein. I lost one of my soldiers, and 4 days before ceasefire, I was injured very badly myself. When Hezbollah launched an anti-tank missile towards my unit, we were going by foot, and I was very lucky that the missile itself did not hit me, but I hit a wall that was very close to me. And from that explosion, I flew in the air, landed on my belly, realized that I was injured very badly. I don't know if you managed to see this, but this was a huge cut from a shrapnel. The biggest injury was that my foot was cut off. Managed to reattach it by the best doctors in Nahariya Hospital, Jews and Arabs, by the way, and we'll speak about the partnership that exists in Israel. But I want to go back because I told you I have few stories about Nazareth or about my Arab friends from my society. When I was going to Lebanon, one of my friends called me and said to me, Yosef, I heard you're going to Lebanon. So I have to ask you, how does it feel? I said, how does it feel what? He said, how does it feel to go and fight your Arab brothers? I said, I'm not going to fight my Arab brothers. I am going to fight the terrorist organization Hezbollah. Eventually, the call ended by agreeing to disagree. As I told you, I was injured. And during my rehabilitation, that friend came to visit me in the hospital. The first thing he told me when he came to the hospital was, Yosef, I understand what you said back then in that conversation. The reason why he said that, and I see that there's 82 people here, I'm willing to bet that at least between 70 to 80, if not 90% of the people will not know the next fact that I'm about to give. But during the Second Lebanon War, while I was fighting inside, on my city, Nazareth, rockets fell down, killed babies, injured dozens. 44 civilians were killed by Hezbollah rockets. Half of them were Arab Muslims. How many of you knew this information? When I was in Lebanon, I wasn't fighting my Arab brothers. When I was in Lebanon, I was fighting Hezbollah, the terrorist organization. And when I was in Lebanon, I wasn't defending the Jewish society. I was defending my country and the Israeli society, which both has Arabs and Jews. And when my friend came to me and said to me in that hospital that he understood me, you know, there's no feeling of winning, especially after you lose your friends, commanders, and soldiers and you get injured yourself. But I would lie if I would say it didn't give me some sort of a satisfaction, a closure to that conversation. I'll jump very fast because I'm sure there's a lot of questions. 5 years ago, after I fully rehabilitated, 5 years ago, I established the organization Together Vouch for Each Other, which is an Arab-Israeli organization that works to bridge gaps between Jews and Arabs. Our motto is us first. And when we say us first, because despite the fact that we're not a political organization, we founded ourselves because of our Arab leaders. The Arab leaders that they don't do anything for us. We vote for them, and I have an explanation to that, by the way, why we keep voting for the same people who does not do nothing for us. And they go and shout Ramallah, Jenin, and Gaza, and not Nazareth, Rahat, Haifa, and Akko. So despite the fact we're not a political organization, we established ourselves because of that, and we are working to bridge gaps between Jews and Arabs and to work and to solve our main problems here in the Israeli society. That's when it comes to work inside Israel. Outside of Israel, as minorities, we go and we actually speak about Israel, represent Israel. And we do three things. We say the truth, we back it up with facts, and when there is a legitimate criticism towards our country, we do not run away from it. We talk about it, we acknowledge them. Israel is not perfect, and everybody should understand that, especially those who want to talk about Israel, present Israel. Racism exists, discrimination exists. But discrimination and racism exist, unfortunately, in every country I've visited in my life. And by the way, it's funny, people, when they say talking about racism, they immediately go for Arab against Jews or Jews against Arabs. Why? There is not enough racism between Arabs and Arabs or Jews and Jews. It exists. The good news that all this happens among an extreme minority in our society, in every community. The bad news that these extreme minorities are louder, more violent, and they will literally do everything to intimidate you and silence you. And the moment I realized that is when literally both extremists from both sides collaborated against us. So as I said to myself, if I managed to unite the most extremist people together, there's no way we couldn't do that to the majority of Israelis that want to live in partnership, Jews and Arabs.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Yosef. That was a great introduction and fascinating personal story. And I think a lot of really inspiring sentiments there, which I think for everyone on this call, everyone on this Zoom, who is, whether we live in Israel or outside, all of us care very much about Israel, the state of Israel, and the way it is perceived around the world. And so it's very important to hear what you're saying and to know also what you're doing in that regard. I have a bunch of questions about stuff you're doing, and I'm sure many of our audience do as well. I wanted to ask one general question about sort of Arabs in the IDF. You mentioned, I think you said that when you were a kid, and there were just, I think you said, a handful of Arabs serving the IDF, and today it's grown quite a lot. Do you have? Can you? Is it year on year increasing, or it increased and then there was a stop? And can you also tell us, are there particular Arab communities from which most of the Arab IDF soldiers come from? I know, for example, I think a lot of northern Bedouins serve in the IDF, right? Like, can you?
And in general, also from the south, the Bedouin are serving, but there is a huge increase within the Christian community. There is also increase in the Muslim community as well, whether they're from Bedouin or not. The increase happens every year, and excuse me, it means when someone sneezes while he's speaking, it means he's not lying. That's how we in my community. I don't know if it's also the same way in the Jewish community, but in the Arab community, if you sneeze while you're saying something, it means you're telling the truth. So there you go.
Very good, very good.
So basically, the increase is happening, and there is a reason why it's happening. It's happening because more and more the young generation want actually to feel part of the Israeli society. But there is a fascinating statistics that not a lot of people are talking about, which is the national service. Okay, so the national service is another way to serve the country, and you do it in the police department, fire department, special schools, hospitals, paramedics, and something like that. So here's the unbelievable data. 10 years ago, you would have about 200 Arab Israelis volunteering to serve in the national service. 10 years later today, over 5,000 Arab Israelis volunteer yearly. So, which means every year, at least 5,000 Arab Israelis are volunteering to serve in the national service. Just a quick math, and the number is growing from every year. Yeah, so next year it could be 5,500 or 6,000, 7,000. So within the next 10 years, you would have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Arab Israelis that will serve the country in the national service. Here is another statistic. 44% of those who volunteer to the national service are coming from the Muslim community. Okay? So we're seeing this increase. They're seeing this increase because of two things. One, as I said, a lot of the young generation see this as a key to the Israeli society and be part of the Israeli society. And second, it's a better way to prepare yourself for the real life. You know, think about it. The majority of Arab Israelis go to the universities at the age of 18, while at the same time from the Jewish society, they arrive after the army and after a big trip, whether, in India or South America or whatever it is. So you would see a difference between the experience of life from the Jewish society, the experience of life of an Arab Israeli, because we go immediately to the university, while a Jew would go, someone from the Jewish society would go around the age of 23, 24, or even 25, okay? A lot of Arab Israelis sees how much confident those students come with after the army and trip and all that. And they see that serving in the national service, which I believe the best option. I'm an IDF veteran. I was injured in the Second Lebanon War. I will support anyone from the Arab society that wants to volunteer to the IDF. But if you're asking me, what do I actually advocate for? 100% the national service, because it's a perfect middle line solution for the Arab Israelis to serve the country and at the same time to serve the community. It's actually the motto of the national service, of how I am pushing as much as possible from the young Arab Israelis to go and volunteer. And this is the best way to have the ticket to the Israeli society. And, let's be also honest, yeah? I don't think now Arab Israelis want to, the majority of them want to go to the army. And I don't think that even the Jewish society and the country as itself want to, list the majority of the Arab society. So the perfect example, it would be the national service. And that's where we're pushing as hard as possible. Because as I said, I believe that the key to the Israeli society and that bridging the gaps is starting with the national service. So we're going very hard on that in terms of pushing it in the Arab Israeli society.
Fantastic. Okay, there was a question I asked our guest. I mentioned that last week we spoke to a gentleman about Haredim serving in the army, and I asked him a question which I actually think I can ask just by changing Haredi to Arab. Actually applies very well here as well, which is when you advocate within the Arab community for national service, and indeed perhaps even for those that want to serve in the IDF, encouraging them and giving them the benefit of your experience as an IDF veteran, what kind of pushback do you get from community leaders within the Arab society, whether they're political leaders or religious leaders or others, or do you not?
No. So there's a bit difference between the Haredim and the Arabs, because the pushback, first of all, I'm not in favor of forcing. Okay, I'm not in favor of forcing. It's crazy, but Yom Kippur in Israel, there is no law that says you must not drive your car when you have Yom Kippur. Yet all Israelis respect that, and they don't drive their cars on Yom Kippur. Okay, so I'm not in favor of forcing someone to do something. I do think that with the right encouragement and the right way to explain why it's good for our society, you can and it's working. 10 years ago, only 200, 10 years later, we have 5,000, and this number is increasing. So it means it's working. The pushback that we're getting it from the extremists, that they're afraid of that. The pushback is coming from the Arab leaders, such as Ayman Oudi, Ahmad Tibi, and others, and Aidatu Musliman from the Arab political parties, which they don't want to see that. And there's a reason why they don't want to see that, because they want to make sure that the Arab Israeli society will never be part of the Israeli society. They want to maintain the Palestinian identity. They want to maintain that nationality of saying, oh, we are Palestinians and point. But if we start serving in the IDF, if we start serving in the national service, if we start being an integral part of the Israeli society, then what will happen to their agenda, to their narrative? That's why they're afraid of me. That I'm saying it as it is. They are afraid of my voice. That's why every time I had a debate with them on live TV, they would run away. I actually have it. You could go on my social media and you would see some of those videos where I am actually coming to debate Ahmed Tibi, and once Ahmed Tibi sees my face, he runs away out of the studio. Or Aidatu Musliman, or Sami Abu Shhadi. And all of them, they don't want to actually confront me for the same reason. They don't want to give my voice a legitimate voice because they know that if they do that, more and more Arab Israelis will start, looking at it in a way of, wait, let's hear this guy. Let's see what happens to him. I'll give you an example to see how scared they are. Few weeks ago, Ahmed Tibi mentioned my name in the parliament, in the Knesset. One sentence he said something about. One sentence. After that sentence, I got hundreds of messages from Arab Israelis saying, for the first time we heard your name from Ahmed Tibi. We had to go and search who you are. And they're going like, I can't believe it. Finally, someone is saying exactly what we think, but we're afraid to say it out loud. Now imagine if I have a debate one-on-one with Ahmed Tibi, a full one, without him running. More and more impact, but we're doing that impact anyway. But obviously, the Arab leaders, they know what they're doing, and the fact that they are not confronting me, it's because they're afraid of that voice. And the fact that our organization is keep growing and growing and growing. Guys, 5 years ago, I was myself and 2 people. Today, we have hundreds of volunteers, thousands of members, tens of thousands of followers. That's how together vouch for each other. An Arab-Israeli organization became one of the most influential organizations there is on the partnership between Arabs and Jews. We changed people's mind. You know how many times I've heard from Jewish society comes there, I was racist. but you managed to change my mind. Or how many times I heard people from the Arab society saying, listen, I've never thought in my life I would be saying I'm proud to be an Arab and I'm proud to be an Israeli as well. So we're actually making a huge difference. And because of that, more and more people are joining us. I don't impose anything. I want to work in a way to explain to my society why it's good to serve in the national service, what benefit we can get as a society, and how can we bridge gaps between Jews and Arabs if we do so.
Fantastic. Okay. There's a lot of questions
Go ahead.
to go through. So you mentioned just now when you were talking about the Arab members of Knesset, or many of them, Ahmed Tibi and others, who, as you say, make a point of stressing the Palestinian identity. And there's a question here from Jonathan, who says, you refer to yourself as an Arab Israeli. Increasingly, he says, it appears that Arabs in Israel refer to themselves as Palestinian. How do you deal with this issue of identity and self-description?
It's just not true. Factual. Yeah, let's talk facts. I like to talk facts. Go back to the last 5 surveys that were conducted before every election. Yes, we had 5 elections within 2.5 years. So every time you have election, you usually conduct a survey asking about identity and asking about political issues. Okay, so before I jump to the identity, by the way, when it comes to the political issue, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict always comes last, with maybe 4 to 5% of the people referring to it as the most important issue. Okay.
We're talking about Arabs, Israeli Arabs here.
Arab Israelis. I don't care about the Palestinians in the West Bank.
No, but we're talking about Arab Israelis, not the general population, is what I mean.
We're talking about the surveys. Yes. The survey was conducted within the Arab Israelis, not the general Israelis. Yes, Arab Israelis. So the Arab Israelis answered that the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is the least of an interest, and the most interesting thing and the most important thing for us is security, and then economic and education and all that. As for the identity, and that just go to the survey, the last 5 of them. Only between 7 to 11% identify themselves as Palestinian. The rest either as Arabs or Arab Israelis or Arab of 48. Okay? And further than that, the Palestinians themselves don't refer us as Palestinians. Watch many articles by Ohad Hemo or by OA Case or what, in any channel. You would see people from Jenin saying, oh, we're waiting for the Arab Israelis to come and buy. They don't even look at us as Arab Palestinians. Okay? The impression that you get, it's because of how we're seeing it on social media and media. And I've seen many articles, and I'm looking to myself, oh my God, this is so, if I was from the Jewish society and I don't speak Arabic and know what's going on the ground, I would think exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But the matter of fact is, between the facts, okay? Between 7 to 11% categorize them or identify themselves as Palestinians.
Okay, and you yourself, just to clarify, you identify as Arab Israeli, right?
Proud Arab and proud Israeli.
Very nice. Very good. Okay, there's a couple of questions here. Maybe I'll ask them together. Miriam asks whether you've ever had BDS, or I guess people involved with BDS, try to intimidate you when you speak in other countries. And related and maybe more serious from Lauren is whether in your opinion your life is in danger because of your Israel advocacy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just 3 weeks ago, I was in London and a wanted ad was on my head. And during my lecture in UCL, I needed 5 bodyguards to escort me to speak at a university and escort me out to safety, because there were 250 pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, vicious, violent people protesting against me, chanting horrible things about me and my family, cursing me. As I said, I needed 5 bodyguards. It was really bad. But you know what? Here's the thing. They don't understand. The more they do it, the more I want to just keep going and on and on and on, because they actually proving the point that they're afraid from my voice. I'm not violent. I am not aggressive. I'm coming to speak my reality and my truth. Okay. It's funny. It's my truth. I'm going to speak the reality of this way. There's no my truth and your truth. There's only one truth. And when you back this with facts, what can I say? Facts don't care about your feelings. Okay. So if they feel intimidated and they feel something, I don't know what, because I speak the truth, that's their problem. It's not my problem. But when I see them trying to intimidate me, trying to silence me, then I realize how much they're afraid. And when they're trying to threaten me because they want to make sure that I don't speak, then I know more and more how it's important for me to speak. So I keep going and doing it and doing it. And just a few days ago in New Zealand, I exposed the biggest lie. I showed the world how they recruit local people without even knowing about the conflict. Just literally yesterday, I put a 23-minute conversation with an activist from the Palestinian club at Auckland University. I was there just a few days ago. It's epic. Epic. She's literally standing there recruiting other people. And when I came, and I knew the facts, so when I came with the questions, you literally hear her saying, well, I'm not the best person to answer this. What? Aren't you recruiting people to the Palestinian club? So if you don't know how to answer, what are you doing here? And when I asked her, so tell me, is there an apartheid in Israel? She said, yes. So I asked her, can you please tell me what is the definition of apartheid? She went to Google. She even doesn't even know what apartheid definition is. But that's not nothing comparing to what's going on in the conversation. I urge you, go and watch that video. It's crazy. So the more I expose them, the more they are intimidated. And the more they are intimidated, the more they threat my life. So yes, there is an actual threat on my life. Here in Israel, I carry my own gun, which was given me by the state of Israel and the police. Outside, when I go, in 2 days, I am going to South Africa as well, and then to the Netherlands, and each and every place we took care of security as well. So, inshallah, everything will be okay.
Okay, inshallah, indeed. Here's a quick question, which may have a very quick answer. Robin says, might you run for Knesset?
I always say, at the right time, at the right moment, I will not hesitate to do that. Right now, I'm focusing on what we're doing outside of the political world, because what we're doing is essential. It's very, very important. And I'm happy to tell you the impact that we're doing on the Israeli society and outside the Israeli society is unbelievable. The moment that I see that we need to step up and to impact more, or we can impact more within the political life, I will not hesitate to do that.
Okay. Here's another politics-related question. Jacqueline asks, do you think there'll be a change in Arab-Israeli army volunteering because of the current political situation? Or I guess she means because maybe how the Arab population might view the current government.
No, I don't think that there would be an effect. Those who want to serve in the army will serve in the army. I don't think that there is an effect. And we'll just say we'll wait for the next year, because next year we will see the new data. And I really believe that we will not see a reduce. Maybe it will be the same, but definitely not reduce.
Okay. Carl or Anita Jacobs, that they have a joint account here, but so one of them is asking you, are Arab Israeli women encouraged to join national service? Sorry again? Are Arab Israeli women encouraged to join the national service? Women as well, actually, or just men?
No, actually 70% of those who volunteers are women.
70%?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question from Miriam. You're someone who's very involved, as we now have heard, in putting Israel's case across and talking about Israel, the way Israel is perceived abroad. Many say that Israel has problems with the other countries because of poor PR. What do you think Israel should do about this to improve their PR and stop the lies?
Well, this is a really good question. Unfortunately, I say that currently we are failing in PR. We're failing miserably. And I think that the state of Israel is not understanding the severity of this when it comes to Hasbara, when it comes to PR. The Palestinians are focusing on that. And because I'm seeing it everywhere, literally in the world, what the BDS is doing is very clever. They infiltrate universities. They put sort of like a virus, one person, and that one person spread that virus to others. Now, for now, in some countries, you don't see the impact. But 10 years, 20 years from now, we're going to see a major impact. We're seeing it, for instance, in Chile right now. In Chile right now is the perfect example of how that impact is huge in those students. Chile has the largest Palestinian population outside of West Bank and Gaza. Almost over, just about 500,000 or a bit more than 500,000 Palestinians. Yeah. And you'd see them, they have even their own football club in Chile. And you'd see how they are actually putting themselves in every position, in key positions in the country. And the more we ignore that, the more in the future we'd see more and more countries falling like this to the BDS. And as I said, New Zealand, the same thing, same idea. Clubs that has no clue, Palestinian club that has no clue about the conflict, but they are advocating for the Palestinians. Why? Because someone there from the BDS arrived there and said, I'm going to take it as a project. And meanwhile, Israel saying, oh, well, it's New Zealand. We don't care. It's a small country.
Yeah.
We cannot leave the area or the arena empty. We have to show up. And one of the things that I encourage everyone, it doesn't matter where are you. One, don't be afraid. Stand and fight back. You know, it's funny. If an Arab can do that, I mean, come on. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I know the reality and I know the truth. We have to fight back. So only if right now, and I say it, Israel, to answer the question, as a country, government has to do something about it. It should be a priority, okay? But right now, since we're not doing it and we're actually focusing on 1,100 things other than that, we, the people, can do something about it. I, for myself, I established the online unit, which has more than 2,000 volunteers in it. And we're trying to do as much as possible impact on the social media, okay? I urge everyone to do something. I urge everyone to engage, okay? Because you have the ability to actually change people's mind without even knowing. My friend, he has 7 followers on Facebook, 7 followers. But one time during the clashes in 2021, May, he responded to Al Jazeera post. He responded very well and knowledge and respectful, full of facts. His comment had more likes than the Al Jazeera post himself. And then it opened debate between Arabs from the Arab world and say, wait, why are you cursing him? He's giving valid points. He literally made them debate each other. Yeah. Okay, so do that and build more connections.
Fantastic. Okay. So Marcel Danon, hi Marcel, how are you doing? Marcel Danon from South Africa says, as you mentioned, that you're going to be there in a few days. Will Yosef be coming to Cape Town during your visit? And is he aware that the South African Parliament voted yesterday to downgrade relations with Israel?
Yes, I've already spoke about it. They downgrade the embassy, their embassy here. I'm not surprised. Again, the BDS is working there very, very hard. Yeah. Unfortunately, the political parties there they've been misled. And what's so sad is that, comparing the Palestinian-Israeli conflict to the real apartheid that happened in South Africa is just doing injustice to the South Africans who suffered from that real apartheid. Such a shame.
Indeed. And I just related to the fact that you're going to South Africa, there was a question right at the beginning from Eric in Florida, in Tampa Bay, who asks how can we make arrangements to have you speak at Florida's West Coast, Tampa Bay area. So maybe as a general question, if people listening to this, especially those outside Israel, want to get you to come to speak to their community somehow, what's the best way of doing that?
So basically, there's an email, and my assistant Dana, she takes care of all those trips. I'm happy to share that email.
Maybe we can write it in the chat here, and then we can.
I'm just gonna write it right now to everyone.
Okay. So people can make a note of this. So especially, guys, if you are outside Israel and you want to arrange for Yosef to speak in your part of the world, then let's see if we can make that happen.
I just sent the email, Dana. Refer that to Dana, and Dana would be glad to help.
Okay, great. So Rachel Efrati asks, she says, we love your advocacy for Israel as an Israeli citizen. We need more people like you. What do you do within Israel to get more Arabs and Jews collaborating?
Well,
and that's obviously relevant to your organization, right? To the organization.
Yeah. Well, first of all, exactly, this is what we do. But before I speak about what we're doing inside of Israel, I have to speak about what happened, what's going to happen in next month, but what happened also last April. Last April, we went to a delegation with Christians, Muslims, Druze, and Bedouin, men and women. And we actually went to the US as a delegation from the Arab Israeli Society. And the topic was the myth of the apartheid. And there you go. We are literally on campus, 5 of us, each one of us from the Arab society, from different community, yeah? And the anti-Israelis against us are like, what are we gonna do? How can we actually battle now 5 Arabs from Israel who live there? So we crushed them. And that's one of the most amazing things that our organization is doing. The fact is that they cannot handle who we are. Our own existence makes it very problematic to continue their agenda. That's the beautiful thing about it. And as I said, we're not huge debaters, but we come with the truth, we back it up with facts, and we never say that Israel is perfect. That's why we are reliable. That's why people intend to listen to us, and we're happy about it. But now let's talk about what we're, and by the way, next month, we're doing yet another history when we doubled from last year our delegation to Auschwitz. And this year, on April 15, 50 Arab Israelis from different communities, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, will fly to Auschwitz. And we will visit Auschwitz camp and march after that, day after that, March of the Living. And we will have a ceremony in Arabic in Auschwitz to commemorate and to pay respect to the 6 million who lost their life during the Holocaust. And it's gonna be in Arabic. I also, this is my time actually to tell you that you can find online the documentary video that we did last year. It is just unbelievable. What happened in that delegation, first ever the Arab delegation, Arab Israeli delegation, to go and to do a ceremony in Arabic, which was broadcasted to the channel that I work in, which is I24 News. It was broadcasted to I24 News in Arabic, to the Arab world. It was absolutely unbelievable. And after that, during the whole delegation, we had a camera following us. And then that was the documentary video. Search on it. Just look at the first Arab delegation to Auschwitz on YouTube, 23-minute video. You would be, I guarantee you, no one can finish this documentary with a dry eye. No way.
Okay. There's a couple of questions about getting a link to this recording. So just to people for those of you on my mailing list, some of the people here receive a weekly email from me. I always send out links to the recordings on those emails. If you're on my mailing list, you will get it anyway. If you're not on my mailing list, you can join my mailing list by emailing me paulg@begincentre.org.il. And also, if you just go to our YouTube channel, Begin Center, it's just called Begin Center, you can find all our videos there, including this one. It'll be up in a couple of days. There's a question here from Denise, and I want to put it to you, even though it's a little, it's a difficult question, I guess. But when we talked beforehand, you assured me that you're used to difficult questions, so we'll go for it anyway. So she says that she says that more and more Arab Israelis are involved in violence, including stabbing and killing Jewish citizens. So firstly, you can tell me if you think that statistic is true, there's been an increase in violence against Jews by Arab Israelis, specifically not Palestinians. And there is the example that she gives, which of course is a well-known example of the violence in Lod and Ramla and other places in May of last year. So can you relate to, firstly, whether there is actually, in your view, an uptick, an upturn in violence by Arab Israelis? And secondly, the specifics of what happened last year.
Okay, it's not, first of all, I'm not gonna, when I've been asked questions like this, it's not in my view, it's in the facts.
Okay, facts. Bavakasha, please, facts.
I have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to more Arab Israelis stabbing Jews. Indeed, unfortunately, it happens in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank. In the West Bank, we're speaking about Palestinians, and in East Jerusalem, we're speaking about Palestinians who has the possibility to have an Israeli ID. They are not citizens. It doesn't mean that there aren't minority Arab Israelis that engage violent and they attack Jews because they're Jews, just like there are minority from the Jewish society that in cases they attack the Arab because they're Arabs. So here's the thing, again, those facts, to go to any report from the police, so you wouldn't see this. You wouldn't see that increase. So there is no evidence to that whatsoever. Happy to clarify that. Now, let's go focus on what happened in May 2021. In May 2021, one day after everything ended, said, that's it. The Arab-Jewish partnership in Israel is done. It's over. What a load of nonsense, okay? Because what I saw is, again, the media and the social media elevate the extreme voices. So every time in my lecture, I always speak about, and I have this question of May 2021. And every time, and I'm willing right now to bet, there's 86 people here. If I take right now 5 people out of the 86 and ask them this question, tell me please, how many Arab Israelis participated in the riots? And how many Jewish Israelis participated in the riots? I'm going to have 5 different answers, okay? Everybody takes the answer to what they felt, not to the facts. So someone will say a couple of thousand, some will say a couple of tens of thousands, some would say a few hundreds, okay? But here is the realistic data. In those riots, between 1,000 to 2,000 Jews participated in the riots, and between 3,000 to 5,000 Arabs participated in those riots. Now, I'm not saying it's not a huge number, but you cannot generalize 2 million Arabs and you cannot generalize 7 million Jews. This is what I say when I have lectures in front of Arab society, and this is what I say when I have lectures in front of the Jewish society, okay? So generalizing the 3,000 to 5,000 or the 1,000 to 2,000 on 7 million and 2 million, you're doing wrong. You're doing wrong. But let me give you even something more than that. I actually went and visited the mayor of Lod, Yair Rivivo, who actually, everybody knows that he comes from the right side of the political map. And I sat down with him and I said, yeah, what the hell happened in your city? He said, Yosef, listen to me carefully. 95% of the Jews and 90% of the Arabs from my city did not engage any act of violence or riots during those clashes. 5% only came from the Arab society and the Jewish society, and the majority of them came from Eastern Jerusalem and settlements. This is the talk of the mayor of Lod, not me. Based on, he knows his community better than anybody else. But to sum this up, partnership between Jews and Arabs exists and thrives more than ever. You can see it every day. I have countless of stories of Jews and Arabs together. We should focus on that. It's easy to focus on the bad things. It's easy to focus on that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't take it in consideration and we shouldn't take care of it. We must take care of it with strong and firm deal. We have to. But if we don't also show the good things that happens between Arabs and Jews here in Israel, then we're failing miserably and we're letting the extremists actually to win. And that's why before I'm passing to the next question, whatever, I'm going to tell you the next story because I want you to hear that. Because I can promise you that, again, the majority of you don't even know this. How many of you know who is Maher Ibrahim? Paul, do you know who is Maher Ibrahim?
No.
So Maher Ibrahim, for instance, and this is one story from thousands that I have right now in my mind. Okay? Not to talk about the 10th of thousands that is happening right now even. Maher Ibrahim is an Arab nurse, Muslim. 2 years ago, he was the senior nurse of the Corona department in Bet Cholim Emek, in the Emek hospital in Afula, in the north of Israel. One day, one of the doctors in that department immediately rushed and called the family of a Jewish older patient. He was about in his 90s. And the doctor said, unfortunately, he's not going to make it. He has between 1 to 2 hours. So they called the family and they request the family to come and say goodbye to that person. Unfortunately, the family is from Jerusalem. And at that time, a little bit of snow was in Jerusalem. And for those who know, a little bit of snow, Jerusalem is shut down. So they could not make it. And that Jewish religion person would have died without even anybody saying anything or, visiting him. Maher Ibrahim, an Arab Muslim nurse, he studied Judaism at Bar Ilan University. He knew how much is it important to say Shema Yisrael to a dying Jew, especially if he's a religious one. He took Sefer Tehillim, sat down next to him and said Shema Yisrael. Few seconds later, he died. But he did not die before he heard Shema Yisrael. Nobody published this story until it came to my front door. I published it and became one of the most viral stories in Israel. Few months later, Maher Ibrahim, he actually participated during the Independence Day and had the honor to light the torch. So this is a simple story of the partnership between Jews and Arabs in Israel. And I'm telling you, the amount of stories that I have that I can tell you, we need at least another 6 hours. Focus on that, please. Okay,
that's a really nice way, I think, for us to conclude. And that's a fantastic, positive story. And I urge everybody to look up Yoseph on social media and see what he's up to. Check out his videos as he referred to, including the one from Auckland University recently. I just wrote again the email address to speak to his assistant Dana and contact him and arrange for him to speak. I also put my email address for those of you that want to be on my mailing list and get details of our English events and also the recordings of these events. I want to thank you, Yosef, for your time. I also want to thank you very much for what you're doing, because without getting into the political debate here too much, and I think we've perhaps thankfully avoided some of the stuff that many of us are dealing with from whatever side we're coming from on the issues that are sort of dividing Israeli society. But I think that more than anything, we need people who are unifying, who are unifiers, who are uniters, and who are looking at the way in which those sections of Israeli society that are often thought of incorrectly, often thought of as being sort of somehow naturally or inherently at loggerheads with each other, need not be. And I think it's really wonderful that you are doing what you're doing.
Paul,
yes, you wanted to say something.
Thank you very much. I always say that Israel is strong only if its society is united and strong. That's why we're working very hard to unite the Israeli society and to bridge gaps between Jews and Arabs. I think in what's going on with the political debate and the judicial reform and all that, I always say that we must find that middle line that connects us, including in political issues like the one that we are facing. By the way, I've addressed it many times, and I will always say there is a possibility to actually reach a solution in every aspect of life. I really believe in that. I see it, including the digital reform that we are seeing right now. Let's find the common things. Let's find that middle line. Let's keep our society strong, to keep our country strong. And with that message, I just really want to tell you that I had the pleasure and the honor to speak to you guys. Thank you very much for that opportunity. And inshallah, we'll see you.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much, Yosef. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back next week with another edition of this. And it's a great pleasure to see you, everyone here. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.